January 1944. I was a senior in high school at 17 years old. A guy come around wanting people to volunteer for the Navy, and I volunteered for the Navy in January of 1944.
Wow.
Mendocino USS 100 APA. It was attack personnel. I think probably there wasn't a single man on there that was 19. We was all 18-year-olds. Most of them was volunteers from Chicago. Well, they didn't even know how to tie their shoes. I had to tie their shoes for them. When we had steak, they didn't go eat. When they had bologna, they all went. I've never seen such an odd bunch of people. I was in 3 invasions. And the first one, I don't remember anything about it till I read about it later. It was because there was so many dead people. I was stacking them on the beach. And then the next one was in the Philippines, and the last one was in Okinawa.
Wow.
In Okinawa, we was the first few days there was a walk in the park. There wasn't any fighting at all. And then after about 3 weeks, all hell broke loose. I don't know where them Japs come from, but we was hauling ammunition into the beach, and a mortar lit right by the boat and lifted it up out of the water. I felt like it went halfway to the moon, but I know it didn't. And I jumped off, grabbed a case of ammunition, and run ashore with it. I had to wade through water up above my waist to get there. And I went running up there, and I seen a guy coming towards me. And I said, it was Carl Schofield, but instead of saying that, I said, "Are you from Linville?" And he said, "Hi, Johnny." He stuttered real bad. Well, about that time, I started handing the ammunition, and another mortar hit and knocked both of us flat on the ground, and he grabbed up the case, and he took off running, and I took off running. Years later, we saw each other on the square in Jacksonville, and we started hugging each other and laughing, and he said, he stuttered real bad, and he said, "Yeah, Johnny, we never did get to finish that conversation we started in Okinawa." And every time we'd see each other, we would say that to each other.
That's funny.
He lives just about a mile and a half up the road, and we used to play together when we was just small boys. I thought it was odd that we met my next door neighbor on the other side of the world. Military life, I got my jaw broke and my bottom teeth knocked out while I was in the service. They treated me real good. We had a good meal every day, except when we was in invasion. We was in the small boats for maybe a month at a time. As we got ashore, we was anchored out in the Bay of San Francisco, and they took us ashore in a boat so we'd get out, because they couldn't walk across that current water in the bay. And they announced that just as we got there, that the war was over. And on that, at the end of Eddy Street in San Francisco, there was a big factory. It must have had 500 women working in it. And they all come down, and they took off my cap, my scarf, even took my blouse off, and I wasn't fighting them off. And if you remember that picture of a sailor kissing a girl,
Yeah.
well, I told all my kids for a long time that was me, because I think I ended up kissing about 50 women that day. There was all sizes, all ages, all colors down there, and they was all so very, very happy with all of us.
life. I know here it was interesting that where I was in Vietnam was only about 20 clicks from Quin Yon. And Quin Yon had a big Navy post, and right off of the base, the city itself, and over the mountain was a huge leprosarium. And we went down and we visited the leprosarium and took food down there. And this is where there were problematic things, because if you took canned goods down to them, they would have, by the time we got back over the mountain, they would be over the mountain and have those goods on the black market.
Oh.
And you had to take and open cans.
Yeah.
And so you learn from this, and people back here in the States sent over just many boxes of clothing and what have you. Well, you don't really need a lot of warm clothing in Vietnam. Yeah, I was on one of the bases, disseminated Agent Orange, and I've had to pay the price of that through prostate cancer and other things too. So
And your friend also.
that's one of the things you get into. You talk about your flying. I did enjoy it in Vietnam. I did go up in a lot of the different planes. In fact, I even rode in one of the gunships, the 119, which is a double-tailed plane, and they had all the guns on the side of it, and they turned the jet to hold the plane in place when they would turn the guns on, because it just moved the plane forward, back and forth this way with it.
That's crazy.
I've been able to understand and see how the necessity of a military is definitely necessary. And having the deployment of individuals across the world also very definitely. And I go along where I've seen the separation and problems that they're put up with, and where the wives are left at home and the families are separated. And we've seen more and more of this now because of the deployments that they have, both in the Air National Guard and in the regular guards at all. I'm just glad for the opportunity to speak to the high school students, and urge all of them to think very seriously about the facts of potentials of college and following through with it. Well, I'm proud of my country, and I would say I was very disappointed because I was a part of that group that came back from Vietnam, and we were told to take our uniforms off when we got back to the States, because of the various problems that were taking place and everything. This was in 69 and 70. And I felt very ashamed then of some of the country and the reactions. But sharing with others in both the VFW and the American Legion, it's worked out very well. I'm not that much of a person to get into the Scrabbles and all that. I will stand though for my country.